Welcome to my show. A guest here. His name is Scott Bartrad. Mr. Scott, how are you doing, sir?
I am good today. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much, Mr. Scott. Firstly, you are the inventor of All Core 360 technology platform, and you're also the 101's Airborne Army Vietnam veteran. Can you please, Mr. Scott, discuss more about yourself and how you are doing currently now, Mr. Scott?
Thank you for the opportunity. Let's see, I'm a retired chiropractor of 35 years. During my career as a chiropractor, I invented the Allcore 360 optimization platform. After I retired from chiropractic, I've gone on around the country and now around the world, representing the Allcore 360. And I think right now, sir, we're probably in 10 or 12 countries and we're growing very rapidly. That's what I do now, and I'm very blessed. In my past life, I was in the 101st Airborne. I'm a member of Mensa. I'm the father of two beautiful children and the grandchild or the grandfather of five incredible great children. So I'm very blessed.
Exactly, you're very blessed with the seeing the grandchildren is one of the best achievements a parents can have. And I also like to ask from your achievements, Mr. Scott, have you written any book or are you planning to write any book in the coming future, Mr. Scott?
Well, actually, I appreciate you saying that. I'm finishing up a book that should be done in the middle of May, and then I've got a second book that should be finished at the end of the year. Yes, I do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Scott. Firstly, I would like to dive to the point of the human survivor, Mr. Scott. Every single thing we need to do in life today have to deal with some survivor we need to, put in place that could really help us to evolve in the life we've come for. So, how do you think human survivor instincts has evolved over time, in years that it has been existing? And why do you think it is now working against us today, Mr. Scott?
That's a great question, and it happens to be the topic of the book, the first book I'm putting out. Um, the survival mechanism I like to point out that I think if we pay attention to, we can realize it went from being very beneficial at a very early stage of mankind, but it's become a detriment to us today. And what I'll point out, really, the one that I point out the most is the tongue. The tongue is a survival mechanism. The tongue was designed so it could recognize the nutrients it needed to survive. And when we found a nutrient that we needed to survive, the brain looked at that as something good, and our tongue looked at that as a pleasant flavor. So what we did is we searched out these pleasant flavors, and in that search for pleasant flavors, we would get the sugars we needed for our energy, and we would get the fats we needed for storage, and we'd get the nutrients we needed for survival. But back in those caveman days, if you will, back long, long time ago, the ability to find something sweet, oh, that wouldn't happen. You might find an orange a month from now, and you might find a honey in a tree 2 months from now, but sugars and glucose wasn't readily available. So it became a super high valuable tool, a survival need, and our tongues look for that first in everything we eat. So what happens is our survival mechanism is on the constant search for glucose. Now, when it used to be across the world to get, that was okay. But when it's stacked on every aisle in every grocery store, in every convenience store, it's everywhere. It's all over. And our tongues are still craving that because it thinks it needs to survive. So what we've done is gotten obese. The population has gotten obese because the tongue wants to store calories for survival. And it does. It searches out those foods. So the way I look at it, one of the things we really need to do, we need to be mindful and aware, although the tongue is a wonderful survival tool, it's killing us now. It's what it wants now is what's killing us. We don't need a pound of salt a day. We don't need a pound of sugar a day. We need very few of those items. So what we need to do as a society and as a population, quit looking for things to make our tongue happy and look for the nutrients we need to survive. So, what I basically am saying is we need to be aware of our eating habits. we need to look at something and say, do we want that because it's making our tongue happy? Or do we want that because we need calcium? What is it that drives the body to get the nutrients it needs to survive? And we can no longer allow it to be the tongue. The tongue has got us off base. We have to use our mind and our awareness. And I think if we do that, we'll be able to curb this appetite that so many people are dealing with and becoming obese because of it and very unhealthy because of it.
And I completely agree with you with this, Mr. Scott. A lot of people are being obese now. And to have that insight that the tongue is what, gives us this motivation to come back again, to hit these things, come back again to do this thing. And it's really, really killing us in one way or the other. I think when we have this mental mindfulness, when we have this awareness that I think this is what is needed, sometimes those things might not be that delicious, but when we know that these are the things that could really help me, I think it will really, really help. The tongue is really, really wanting something that is sweet, 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 but it is not good for our health most of the time. I think that is a very, very powerful insight. We do know that the tongue is what could make someone not really, get this insight that I am in a point whereby I am getting, I'm getting into the surviving area. So I would like to ask if you think it also contributes to burnout and also mental exhaustion, Mr. Scott.
Well, and I think that's another good point. So on a survival aspect, the human being is about protecting itself and protecting its environment and protecting its family. And there was a time when terrors lurked outside the camp. And we had to be able to do that. We had to be able to take care of ourselves. We had to be able to fight or flight. And when our body kicks on those chemicals that we use for fight or flight, and we use them for fight or flight, it's an incredible tool. But if we don't use them, if we sit there in a stressed position, if we sit there in traffic, if we get in an argument and we don't actually use that fight or flight mechanism, those chemicals circulate through our bodies and cause all kinds of negative effects. So, back to being mindful and awareness, I think it's being aware of how your emotions drag you through life. You should not let somebody's words, if it can come out of somebody's mouth and cause you an emotional disturbance, that's your problem. Anybody can say anything they want. You should not allow that to create a chemical imbalance in your body. And I think stress is how we perceive it. And we have to really realize if left alone, the human body is a miracle. It really, really is a miracle machine. Unfortunately, the daily stresses of society has caused it to kick off into this survival mode. That's why we get high blood pressure. That's how we get atherosclerosis. Some people binge eat, like we were talking about before. These are all stress related activities that come from that fight or flight symptom that comes from our body's survival mechanism. I mean, it's wonderful that we have it. And I think it's why, I mean, let's be honest, the human body is the greatest survival machine that's ever been created. It is outdone everything on the planet. And we got to realize that's our blessing. But it's sometimes our curse. It's a mindful awareness of how we act. And like I said, we need to be aware of what our tongue's telling us. We need to be aware of what society does. And we should really never allow anybody outside of our environment to cause a chemical imbalance in our body based on emotion. We can control it. We are in control. Um, and that'll make us healthier. I really think so.
Yeah, awareness is very, very important. We do know that the tongue is very sensitive. When it sees it, it just wants to more of it. But when we are aware that this is right, this is not right, I think it will really, really help one to really get the right thing that are needed to be done at the right moment. I think it will really help our health because there are a lot of obesity, a lot of things are happening with our health today. And I also like to dive to the point of changes you feel that could happen for someone to feel more safe enough to thrive instead of getting into this point of the surviving mode. What systemic changes do you think needs to happen to for people to feel safe enough to thrive, Mr. Scott?
Well, I think a lot of it's education. I think again, it's awareness. It's understanding how the body works. We're brought into the world as a child And what we are given is this incredible computer and this incredible machine, but we're not getting any operating instructions. We're really not told how to use it. We don't have the owner's manual. And so we kind of stumble through life. Pardon me, I just disconnected us. Anyway, we kind of stumble through life learning how our body works. If we were taught early on that this is how we respond and these are the mechanisms of how our body work, and we were aware of that and knowledgeable of that, human beings are smart. They just don't have the information. They've not been told, and they don't have the reason why. So I think the way you do that is you educate the population into how the body works, because like I said, we know more about our cars than we know about our body, and that is horribly wrong. We know more about our cell phone here than we ever knew about our body. And I think what a terrible thing. We only get one of these and we're going to kill it, but we really want to make it last as long as we can. And that's being aware. That's being educated about how the body works and then being aware of that on a daily basis. We get caught up in everything we have to do and we forget. We let other priorities get ahead of us when at the end of the day, you can't do anything if your body's not healthy. So that needs to be your highest priority, mental health and physical health. And then you can go about and have a happy life. You can, you need that.
I think I completely agree. I think that education point is what people need. And I completely agree because every single thing, even the laptop, every single thing, we know how to do it well. But when it comes to our health, we have lesser and lesser understanding. And that is why we have a lot of sickness, a lot of anxiety, a lot of burnout today. I think when we
Mhm.
start to understand how the body works, I think it will really help one to really have a more fulfilling and healthy life. There'll be lesser obesity, there'll be lesser sickness. A lot of sickness are happening today, and those things could massively reduce. I think getting that awareness is very important. Completely agree, Mr. Scott. And I also like to dive to the point of cultural differences. As we are speaking, we have a lot of cultural differences and cultural background. So, do you think cultural differences or generational differences, manifest in how the survivor mode in oneself works, Mr. Scott?
Well, absolutely. And although I'm not familiar with many cultures,
Yeah.
it is the way you are brought up. I mean, when we come on the planet, we only have two inborn fears. We have the fear of loud noises and we have the fear of falling. Every other fear we had to learn. So someone had to make us afraid of that. So it's in every culture, the fears are inbred. It's your parents tell you what to be afraid of. I think I don't know, if you're incredibly wealthy, you don't fear starvation. But if you're not, you fear starvation. So these are things that you're brought up with. Like I said, we have to learn fears. We have to learn that we shouldn't go pet an alligator. We have to learn that and so and I believe in every culture fears are taught, and it's fear that sets off that survival mechanism. So I imagine that does change culture to culture. I'm not familiar with many, but I would understand where it would be.
Well, thank you so much for that insight, Mr. Scott. As in, cultural differences would definitely tell how one could also get in, understand how the body and how one can be trained in how one can treat his or herself. So that's will definitely it's also definitely impacts. And also I would like to dive to the point of the step, like from your experience, I've heard you've said education. Awareness is very important. If we are aware of this thing, then we could know how to fix this things and we could know how to have more healthier life. But once from your experience, what one step do you feel
One
like
step.
someone can do today, to move
I,
from this survivor mode to thriving mode, Mr. Scott?
the one step, I think the first step that I would make, and again, it's being awareness of our activities. Most people are in a reactive state and they're not proactive. They're not planning to do something, they're reacting to something in their environment. So the first step is probably to be proactive with your life. Plan your day, schedule your day, and work around those schedules. And the stress reduces dramatically. When you know how your day is going to play out, when you wake up and you know the day, it's not a surprise. I live in Atlanta. Atlanta has horrible traffic, horrible, horrible traffic. I know when I get up that I'm about to have an hour of horrible traffic. I need to be ready for that. I don't want to be surprised. I know it's going to be like that. So I don't sit in traffic stressed. I sit in traffic knowing that I've got an hour that I can think of other things, but I planned it. And I think it's the lack of planning along with the lack of education that gets us in those stressful environments. So I would say plan your day and be aware of your day and then be proactive in your day. And if you start getting reactive, back up and go, wait a minute, I'm reacting to what somebody else said. That needs to be blocked off. Just be proactive in what you do. I mean, that's maybe a lot of steps, but that's not a bad start.
Exactly. And also even make people understand better, living a life of preparation. Always stay prepared in every single things that come by the way. We do know how the days goes, so we could be prepared on how we could fix those things. We know that I wake up in the morning, this will happen, this will happen. Having that preparation against those times will definitely help. And having more education, like getting more learning more about oneself is really going to also help in those tracks so that we can live a life that we could just be happy. Every single person wants to be happy. But,
Yeah.
with the life that we have today, there are really declines in people that are really, really happy today due to things like this. So we need to have this time life of preparation to see what goes ahead. Like they used to say, live a life of two-step ahead. Things like that are very, very important. Thank you so much, Mr. Scott, for the insights. And lastly, Mr. Scott, there's a question I normally ask during the end of the show from our forefathers. There are a lot of beautiful things that do exist during our forefathers' time that is missing in our time today. If there is anyone or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, Mr. Scott, what do you think that thing will be, Mr. Scott?
Oh, wow. Now that's a beautiful question to ask. And I would say what we've lost as a society is personal communication. We're stuck in the phones and we're stuck in this. We no longer sit at the kitchen table with our family anymore and talk. And I think what we're losing is the closeness of the family unit. I really think that's what's going on. People are becoming, instead of, I would almost had hoped that this ability with these cell phones to communicate would have brought us together. It's not bringing us together. It's bringing us apart. It would be okay with me if we lost all these. I'm not so sure that it was a good move. It's a beautiful tool, but I don't know that from a society standpoint, it's the best thing we've done. So what I think I would like to see that was in our forefathers' time was family time, just family time. I think we've missed that.
Honestly speaking, Mr. Scott, I'm very young. I don't know how it is, honestly speaking. Having this one on one family time, I think is very, very emotional. Having this is natural. I know this is great, but that is having family time is very natural. Every single person are just on their way. We could just have the FaceTime within a minute. I think that disconnection is happening every single day, and community is something that we really need. When someone feels down, when someone feels lonely, I think those are the people who are going to bring one hope that you can do this. And that thing is really, really declining, which really cause a lot of people who are more lonely today. We hope it definitely come back. We really need it. Even it's definitely very important. And I also
It
want to
is.
thank you for the time and the opportunity, getting educated and getting more aware of what we use in our body. This tongue that we have is only love something that is very sweet. Even I know myself very. This tongue, it can do anything. If you see sugar, you just taste it. It's going with it. But if you see something bitter, you know that it's bitter. But the tongue always just want that thing. But we have to be aware of what we bring into ourselves, and we have to get more education so we can live more fulfilling life. Thank you so much, Mr. Scott.
Oh, it's more than my pleasure. I appreciate the time talking with you. I wish you all the success you could possibly have. This was a pleasant time.
All right. Have a wonderful day, Mr. Scott. Bye bye.
Bye, sir.